You are destroying yourself, and you don't even see it. Every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you sacrifice your needs to avoid conflict, every time you contort yourself to make others comfortable, you are giving away pieces of your power until nothing remains. Niccolo Machiavelli understood something that most people spend their entire lives refusing to accept. The attempt to please everyone is the surest path to pleasing no one, least of all yourself. It is not kindness. It is not virtue. It is cowardice disguised as compassion, and it will destroy you. Today we reveal Machiavelli's law of power, the principle that separates those who are respected from those who are used, those who lead from those who are led, those who control their destiny from those who are controlled by the whims of others. The law is brutal in its simplicity. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot satisfy all people. And the moment you try, you become a servant to everyone and a master to no one. Stop pleasing everyone, or be prepared to watch your life dissolve into a series of compromises that leave you hollow, resentful, and powerless. Think about your life right now. How many times today did you agree to something you didn't want to do? How many times this week did you swallow your opinion to avoid disagreement? How many times this month did you sacrifice your time, your energy, your resources to accommodate someone else's demands? And what did you receive in return? Gratitude, respect, loyalty? Or did you receive more demands, more expectations, more of the same people taking from you, because you have taught them that taking from you is free? This is the trap of the people pleaser. You believe that by giving endlessly, by accommodating constantly, by making yourself useful and agreeable, you will earn love, respect, and security. But what you actually earn is contempt. Because people do not respect those who have no boundaries. They do not value those who are always available. They do not honor those who sacrifice themselves without hesitation. They use them. They exploit them. And when there is nothing left to take, they discard them without a second thought. Machiavelli observed the princes of Italy, watching some rise to greatness while others fell into obscurity and ruin. The pattern was clear. The princes who tried to please all factions, who attempted to satisfy every interest group, who sought universal approval, invariably failed. They made so many compromises trying to keep everyone happy that they stood for nothing. And when you stand for nothing, no one stands with you. Their attempts at pleasing everyone resulted in pleasing no one, because every concession to one group alienated another. Every effort to avoid offense created new enemies among those who felt insufficiently prioritized. They exhausted themselves in the impossible task of universal approval and ended up with universal contempt. Meanwhile, the princes who succeeded were those who chose their allies carefully, who were willing to make enemies, who understood that having clear principles and boundaries meant accepting that some would hate them. But those who respected those principles stood with them loyally. They had fewer allies, perhaps, but those allies were genuine. They had enemies, certainly, but those enemies were clear and could be managed. They did not waste energy trying to please those who could never be pleased. They focused their power on what mattered, and in doing so, they accumulated real strength rather than the illusion of universal love. Before we continue dismantling the lie that you must please everyone to succeed, if you're tired of being taken advantage of and ready to reclaim your power, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss these insights on Machiavellian strategy and personal sovereignty. Hit the like button if you've ever felt drained from trying to make everyone happy, and drop a comment sharing one time you said yes when you should have said no, and what it cost you. Now let's explore exactly why people-pleasing is destroying your life and what you must do to stop it. The first reason you must stop pleasing everyone is that it is mathematically impossible to succeed. People have conflicting interests, contradictory desires, incompatible expectations. What pleases one person offends another. What satisfies this group alienates that group. If you try to navigate this maze of conflicting demands, you will end up satisfying no one, least of all yourself. Consider a simple example. Your boss wants you to work late. Your family wants you home for dinner. Both cannot be fully satisfied. If you stay late, your family is disappointed. If you go home, your boss is disappointed. The people-pleaser tries to split the difference, staying somewhat late but rushing home, satisfying neither party fully, and creating resentment on both sides. Meanwhile, the person who understands Machiavelli's law makes a choice. He decides which relationship is more important in that moment and commits to that choice fully. He tells his boss, "No, I'm going home." Or he tells his family, "I need to stay late tonight." One party is disappointed, but the other is satisfied. And critically, both parties respect his decisiveness. They know where they stand. They know he makes choices based on principles and priorities, not on fear of disapproval. This pattern repeats in every area of life. Your friends want you to join them for drinks. Your health goals require you to go to the gym. You cannot do both. The people pleaser tries to do a little of each, showing up for one drink and leaving early, satisfying no one. His friends think he's not really committed to the friendship. He doesn't get his workout in. He's failed on both fronts. The decisive person chooses. Tonight is for friends, or tonight is for the gym. He commits fully, and everyone respects the clarity. The mathematics of human relationships are unforgiving. Every yes to one thing is a no to another. Every attempt to split your energy among infinite demands results in infinite mediocrity. The people pleaser spreads himself so thin that he becomes invisible, a ghost present everywhere and fully present nowhere. The powerful person concentrates his energy. He chooses his priorities and defends them, and in doing so he becomes significant, memorable, respected. Machiavelli writes that he who seeks to deceive will always find someone who will allow himself to be deceived. The people pleaser deceives himself more than anyone. He tells himself that if he just tries harder, accommodates more, sacrifices more of himself, eventually people will appreciate him. But this is a fantasy. The more you give without boundaries, the less people value what you give. Scarcity creates value. Abundance creates contempt. When you are always available, always willing, always sacrificing, you signal that your time has no value. Your needs have no importance. Your very existence is cheap. And people treat cheap things cheaply. They do not treasure them. They do not protect them. They use them until they break and then find a replacement. The second reason you must stop pleasing everyone is that it erases your identity. When you constantly mold yourself to fit what others want, you lose touch with what you actually want. You become a mirror reflecting others' desires, with no substance of your own. You have no clear values because your values shift based on who you're talking to. You have no firm opinions because your opinions change based on what will be well received. You have no authentic personality because your personality is a performance designed to minimize conflict and maximize approval. This is spiritual death. You have sacrificed yourself on the altar of approval, and what remains is not a person but a hollow shell, animated by the expectations of others. Machiavelli would tell you that such a person cannot lead, cannot inspire, cannot achieve anything of significance, because significance requires standing for something. It requires having a core that does not bend with every wind of opinion. It requires being willing to say, "This is who I am. This is what I believe. This is what I will and will not do. And if you don't like it, that is your problem, not mine." Think about the people you actually respect in your life. Are they the ones who agree with everything you say? Are they the ones who never challenge you, never disagree, never stand firm on principles you might find inconvenient? Or are they the ones who have clear boundaries, who speak their truth even when it's unpopular, who remain consistent regardless of social pressure? The answer is obvious. We respect authenticity. We respect strength of character. We respect those who know who they are and refuse to compromise that for our approval. Ironically, the very behavior that people pleasers engage in to earn respect, constant accommodation and agreement, is the behavior that guarantees they will never be respected, because respect is not given to those who bend. It is given to those who stand firm. When you try to please everyone, you become unknowable. No one knows what you actually think, what you actually value, whether your agreements are genuine or just conflict avoidance. This unknowability breeds distrust. People sense that you are performing, that you are not being authentic, and they pull away. They might use you, but they don't trust you. They don't confide in you. They don't build real relationships with you. Because real relationships require vulnerability, and vulnerability requires authenticity. And you have sacrificed authenticity for approval. So you end up surrounded by shallow connections, transactional relationships, People who interact with you only because you're useful or agreeable. And when you stop being useful, when you finally set a boundary or express a genuine opinion, they disappear. Because they were never connected to you. They were connected to the performance you were giving. And when the performance ends, so does their interest. The third reason to stop pleasing everyone is that it makes you a target for manipulators. People who understand power dynamics can spot a people pleaser instantly, and they exploit them ruthlessly. If you cannot say no, if you cannot set boundaries, if you will sacrifice yourself to avoid conflict, you are prey. You are a resource to be extracted, used, and discarded. Machiavelli understood that the world contains predators and prey, those who take and those who give, until there is nothing left. The people pleaser is always prey. He signals his weakness through his inability to refuse, through his desperate need for approval, through his willingness to absorb mistreatment rather than risk disapproval. And predators circle him constantly. Consider the coworker who always asks you to cover their shifts, to take on their work, to help them meet their deadlines. At first you agree because you want to be helpful, because you want to be liked. But the requests never stop. They increase, because the coworker has learned that you cannot say no. You have trained them to exploit you. And they do, without guilt, without gratitude, because you have demonstrated that you are a resource to be used. Or consider the friend who only calls when they need something, who disappears when you need support but reappears the moment they have a problem. You continue the friendship because you don't want to seem cold, because you don't want conflict. But this person is not your friend. They are a parasite, and your people-pleasing behavior has made you the perfect host. Machiavelli advises that one must be a fox to recognize traps. The people-pleaser is not a fox. He is a rabbit, oblivious to the traps set for him, walking into them repeatedly because he cannot distinguish genuine requests from exploitation. He wants to believe everyone has good intentions, that people will respect his generosity and not abuse it. But this belief is naive. People act according to their interests, and if exploiting you serves their interests, many will do so without hesitation. The only thing protecting you is your ability to say no, to set boundaries, to recognize when someone is taking advantage, and to cut them off. Without this ability, you are defenseless. You will be used until you are empty, and then you will wonder why you feel so drained, so resentful, so exhausted. The answer is simple. You allowed it. You enabled it. You trained people to exploit you by never setting the boundaries that would have protected you. The fourth reason to abandon people-pleasing is that it prevents you from achieving your goals. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your priorities, you are saying no to something that does. Your time and energy are finite. When you spend them accommodating others' demands, you have nothing left for your own ambitions. The people-pleaser is always busy, but never productive. He is always doing things for others, but never accomplishing his own objectives. He ends each day exhausted, having crossed nothing off his own list while checking off dozens of items from everyone else's. And years pass like this. He looks back and realizes he has lived according to everyone's agenda but his own. He has achieved nothing that matters to him because he spent all his resources achieving things that mattered to others. Machiavelli tells us that the first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him. But we can expand this. The first method for estimating whether someone will succeed is to look at how they allocate their time. The successful person is ruthlessly protective of his time. He says no to everything that doesn't serve his goals. He disappoints people regularly because his priorities are clear and non-negotiable. He understands that every yes is a trade-off, and he makes those trade-offs consciously, strategically, in service of what matters most. The people-pleaser has no such clarity. He says yes reflexively without considering the cost, without evaluating whether the request aligns with his goals, and so his life becomes a series of random responses to others' demands, with no coherent direction, no progress toward anything meaningful. He is busy but directionless, active but purposeless, exhausted but empty. If you want to achieve anything significant, you must learn to disappoint people. You must learn to say no without guilt, without lengthy explanations, without apologies. You must learn to prioritize your own goals over others' convenience. This will feel selfish at first because you have been conditioned to believe that self-sacrifice is virtue. But self-sacrifice without purpose is not virtue. It is waste. It is the squandering of your limited time on earth in service of others' endless appetites for your attention, energy, and resources. Machiavelli would call this foolishness, not nobility, and he would be right. The fifth reason to stop pleasing everyone is that it makes you miserable. Beneath the smiles, beneath the accommodations, beneath the constant yes, the people-pleaser is drowning in resentment. He resents the people he's helping because they never appreciate it enough. He resents himself for not being able to say no. He resents the life he's living because it's not the life he wants, but rather a patchwork of others' expectations. This resentment poisons everything. It leaks out in passive-aggressive behavior, in subtle sabotage, in emotional withdrawal. The people-pleaser becomes bitter, cynical, exhausted, and confused about why he feels this way when he's trying so hard to be good, to be helpful, to be kind. The answer is that he has abandoned himself. He has betrayed his own needs, his own desires, his own boundaries in pursuit of an impossible goal, making everyone happy. And in doing so, he has made himself profoundly unhappy. Machiavelli understood that sustainable power requires being at peace with who you are and what you stand for. The prince who tries to be all things to all people is never at peace. He is constantly anxious about who he might be disappointing, constantly calculating what version of himself to present to which audience, constantly exhausted from maintaining incompatible personas. This is not power. This is slavery. True power comes from alignment between your actions and your values, from knowing who you are and living accordingly, from having the courage to let others be disappointed rather than living in constant self-betrayal. The powerful person sleeps well at night because he lives with integrity. His actions reflect his values. He disappoints others sometimes, but he never disappoints himself. The people-pleaser never sleeps well. He is haunted by resentment, regret, and the gnawing awareness that he is living someone else's life. Now let us discuss the path forward. How do you stop pleasing everyone after years or decades of conditioning? The first step is accepting that you will disappoint people. This is not optional. It is inevitable. The moment you start setting boundaries, the moment you start saying no, people who benefited from your lack of boundaries will be upset. They will call you selfish. They will accuse you of changing, of no longer being the person they knew. And they are right. You are changing. You are reclaiming yourself. And they don't like it because it disrupts their comfortable arrangement where they took from you without consequence. Let them be upset. Their disapproval is not your responsibility. Their comfort is not your obligation. You are not on this earth to manage others' emotions at the expense of your own well-being. Machiavelli advises that it is better to be impetuous than cautious, because fortune is a woman and it is necessary to hold her down and beat her. While we might phrase it less violently today, the principle holds: decisive action is better than timid accommodation. When you decide to stop people-pleasing, do not do it gradually. Do not apologize for it. Do not try to cushion the blow with explanations. Simply start saying no. Start setting boundaries. Start prioritizing your own needs. Some people will adjust. They will respect your new boundaries and continue the relationship on healthier terms. These are the people worth keeping. Others will rage, manipulate, guilt-trip, and ultimately leave. Let them. They were never truly in your life for you. They were there for what you provided. And now that the free resource is no longer available, they are revealing their true nature. This revelation is painful but necessary. It shows you who your real friends are and who were simply users disguised as friends. The second step is defining your priorities. You cannot stop pleasing everyone if you don't know what you're pleasing instead. What matters to you? What are your goals? What are your values? What kind of life do you want to build? Write these down. Make them explicit. And then use them as a filter for every request, every demand, every opportunity. Does this align with my priorities? If yes, consider it. If no, decline it. This clarity transforms decision-making from an agonizing process into a simple evaluation. You are no longer trying to calculate who will be most upset by your refusal. You are simply asking whether the request serves your priorities. If it doesn't, the answer is no, regardless of who is asking. Machiavelli teaches that a prince should have no other object or thought but war and its organization and discipline. For your life, the equivalent is, you should have no other object or thought but your priorities and their achievement. Everything else is distraction. Every demand that doesn't serve your priorities is an attack on your future. Defend against these attacks with the same seriousness a prince defends against military threats. Your time is your territory. Protect it. Your energy is your army. Deploy it strategically. Your goals are your state. Everything you do should strengthen them, not weaken them by being diverted to others' objectives. The third step is learning to say no without guilt. This is perhaps the hardest part for chronic people-pleasers. They have been conditioned to believe that saying no is cruel, that disappointing others is a moral failure. But consider this. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you are lying. You are being inauthentic. You are prioritizing someone else's momentary comfort over your own long-term well-being. Is this really more moral than honest refusal? Machiavelli would argue that the appearance of goodness is often more harmful than honest self-interest. When you say yes while resenting it, you build false expectations. The other person believes you're happy to help. They will ask again. They will take your resentment-filled yes as genuine agreement, and when you finally break, when the resentment overflows and you explode or withdraw, they are confused and hurt because from their perspective, you were always willing. You trained them to expect your compliance, and now you're angry at them for expecting what you taught them to expect. Honest refusal is kinder. It sets clear boundaries. It allows the other person to adjust their expectations and find alternative solutions. It prevents the buildup of resentment that poisons relationships. When you say no clearly, calmly, without elaborate justifications, you are actually being more respectful than when you say yes while seething inside. You are treating the other person as an adult who can handle disappointment and find another way forward. And you are treating yourself with the respect you deserve, acknowledging that your needs matter, that your time is valuable, that you are not an infinite resource to be depleted by others' demands. Practice saying no in low-stakes situations. The person asking you to volunteer for something you don't care about. The friend inviting you to an event you don't want to attend. The coworker asking you to take on work that isn't your responsibility. Start small. Say no. Observe what happens. In most cases, nothing terrible occurs. The person finds someone else or manages without you. The world does not end, and you have reclaimed a piece of your time and energy. As you build this muscle, saying no becomes easier. You realize that most of the catastrophic consequences you imagined never materialize. People respect boundaries more than you expected, and those who don't respect your boundaries reveal themselves as people you should distance yourself from anyway. The fourth step is surrounding yourself with people who respect boundaries. One reason people-pleasing is so exhausting is that people-pleasers often attract takers, people who have no boundaries themselves and who seek out those they can exploit. As you start setting boundaries, these people will naturally fall away. Good. Replace them with people who have their own clear priorities, who respect your no, who don't guilt-trip or manipulate when you can't accommodate them. These people exist. They are the ones who also say no when necessary, who also protect their time, who also live according to their own priorities. Build relationships with them. You will find that these friendships are deeper, more genuine, more reciprocal than the exploitative relationships you've tolerated. Because they are based on mutual respect, not on one person's endless giving and another's endless taking. Machiavelli observed that good friends are hard to find and must be cultivated carefully, but implicit in this is that not everyone deserves your friendship. Most people are not good friends. Most people are users, opportunists, fair-weather companions who will be with you when convenient and absent when you need them. Stop trying to befriend everyone. Stop trying to be liked by everyone. Focus on the few who actually deserve your time and loyalty. Quality over quantity. A handful of genuine relationships built on mutual respect and clear boundaries is worth infinitely more than 100 shallow relationships built on your self-sacrifice. The fifth and final step is embracing the identity of someone who prioritizes himself. This is not selfishness in the negative sense. This is self-preservation, self-respect, self-actualization. You are recognizing that you cannot pour from an empty cup, that you cannot help others if you have destroyed yourself through endless self-sacrifice, that the most moral thing you can do is ensure you are strong, healthy, and capable, so that when you do choose to help others, it comes from abundance rather than depletion. Machiavelli's prince prioritizes the strength and security of his state above all else, because without that foundation, he cannot do anything else effectively. You are the prince of your own life. Prioritize your strength, your security, your well-being. Not out of narcissism, but out of strategic necessity. When you are strong, you can choose to be generous. When you are depleted, you have nothing to give. This shift in identity is profound. You move from seeing yourself as someone whose value comes from serving others to someone whose value is inherent and who chooses when and how to serve based on his own judgment and priorities. You move from reactive to proactive, from victim to agent, from pleaser to sovereign. This is the transformation Machiavelli's law of power creates. You stop asking what will make others happy and start asking what will make you strong, fulfilled, successful. And paradoxically, when you make this shift, you often end up helping others more effectively, because you help from a place of choice and abundance rather than obligation and resentment. Your help is genuine, targeted, and sustainable. You are not trying to please everyone. You are choosing to assist those who align with your values and who respect your boundaries. This is true generosity, not the performative self-sacrifice of the people-pleaser. So here is the truth that Machiavelli's law reveals. Attempting to please everyone is not noble. It is cowardice. It is the abdication of self in favor of universal approval, which is impossible to achieve and soul-destroying to pursue. You cannot please everyone. You should not try. Instead, you must define who you are, what you value, what you will and will not accept. You must set boundaries and enforce them without apology. You must prioritize your own goals and let others be disappointed when those goals conflict with their desires. You must surround yourself with people who respect your boundaries and distance yourself from those who don't. And you must embrace the identity of someone who values himself enough to say no, to disappoint others, to live according to his own priorities rather than the endless demands of those around him. This is Machiavelli's law of power. This is how you reclaim your life. This is how you stop being used and start being respected. Stop pleasing everyone, or accept that you will please no one, least of all yourself. The choice is yours. But understand that there is no middle path. You either live for yourself or you are consumed by others. Machiavelli showed us this truth centuries ago. The question is whether you have the courage to accept it and act accordingly.